Hi everyone. Today I want to take you through a short tutorial on working overlay mosaic crochet in the round. Now, by in the round in this instance I mean starting from the center and working out. You can also do in the round as like a tube, but that's not what I'm showing you today. Today it's for like a granny square but using overlay mosaic crochet. So I've got a little tutorial. It's just 9 rounds. And the idea of that is to show you basically there's 3 different ways you can work the corners depending on whether you're having it sort of straight round like so, or you're making little squares in the corners, or you're having like a solid square in the corners. So that will all become clear. Okay, so what we need, you need your 2 shades of yarn. You can actually do it in one, to be honest, but if you want a more subtle sort of textured thing, but for 2 that'll show the pattern better. So 2 contrasting shades of yarn, crochet hook appropriate to the yarn. So I am actually using a 3.75mm hook here for my Stylecraft Special DK. Depending on your tension, you may well use a different size, but it doesn't really matter for the purpose of the tutorial. I say use the hook you'd normally use for your yarn. We don't need the scissors so much actually in this one, because the beauty of working in the round is you don't actually have too many loose ends, so that's good. And I've got a couple of markers here. You may need more than that, it depends really on you. I'm not going to overload the markers on the bit I show you, because I want you to be able to see the stitches. But I recommend you really have a marker for each corner chain, just so it's easier to find it, and also one for the slip stitch we work at the end of the row. So if you've got like 5 markers, that would be great. Okay, so we are going to start with a magic ring. So if you don't know how to do a magic ring, it's nice and straightforward. Just got 2 fingers here and the loose end of my yarn here. So I'm going to wrap that over, and then again, and this top one now goes over, so that now goes over the top there. Okay, so then we insert our hook between the 2 strands there and pull a loop through. Okay, and that is your magic ring, and that first chain we now work in there is going to hold that ring in place. Okay, and it also works as a kind of turning chain, bringing our hook up to the right place. So this first chain doesn't count as a stitch, and what we're then going to do is, working into this ring, 1 double crochet, 1 chain. Now this is where I recommend, I mean it can get a little bit fiddly on this first round, but if you are, I'm just going to mark this very first corner chain, okay, just so it's easier to find it on the next row. Okay, get right, there we go. So we've done 1 double crochet, 1 chain, and we now need to do that 3 more times. So that is 2 double crochets, 2 chains, 3, 4. So we've now got 4 double crochets and 4 chains, obviously not including that first one, which is our turning chain. What we can now do is get hold of the end of our magic ring and pull that tight. Okay, now what we're going to need to do, we are going to need to weave this end in, because otherwise it can kind of come loose later on, but for now that should be secure while we're doing the rest of it. Okay, so we've now got our 4 double crochets and 4 chains. We now need to connect it up. So this is where it's handy that I've just marked the front loop of that first corner chain there, so we know that these loops just before them, that is our first double crochet, and we are going to just insert our hook under both of those loops and do a slip stitch there. Now don't pull this slip stitch too tight, because you're going to need to work into it. That is going to be the final stitch of our next round. So for that it can be useful to just pop a marker in there, and see we're already, because we're quite early on, we've got quite a lot of markers there. So what we're now going to do, we now need to switch colours. So this was done in our colour 1, the lighter shade. So we're not going to cut it off, we're just going to drop that and leave it at the back of the work. Then we're going to pick up our colour 2. And all we do now, after making that slip stitch, is just pull that loop through. Now I know some people like to change colour in that last, like you'd change colour in the slip stitch. I prefer to do it this way because it just kind of leaves it all looking, you don't have like this extra colour sort of showing in between there. I just think it makes it look neater, and we're going to just pull that right down so that disappears. We've now pulled up our new colour, so we can drop the end of that, work a chain. Okay, so again, that's our turning chain. So that's how we're going to start every round. We're going to pull up our new colour and we're going to work the corner chain. We'll just pull that previous one tight. Okay, so now what we need to do is go to our marked corner chain from the previous round here. Okay, so that's where I put my green marker in. So we're going to work into the back loop of that chain. You need to leave this front loop clear because on some corners we are actually going to be working into that. Okay, so we've got 1 double crochet, 1 chain, 1 double crochet in that corner. Okay, so now we can take our marker out and move it up into that chain we've just done there. So we just know where at least our first chain is, and say if you find it difficult to see them, you may want to do that on all the corners. Okay, so we've done our first corner on round 2. So now we've just got to work 1 back loop double crochet in the next stitch there, and that's our repeat. So we've now got our double crochet, chain, double crochet in the next corner chain, and then 1 back loop double crochet there. Okay, so that is all we're doing all around. Each corner chain is going to have double crochet, chain, double crochet in it, and then we've got 1 back loop double crochet between. So as I said before, we're always working in these corner chains, we're always working into that back loop. Okay, so now I've got round to that and we've just got to the end there. So our last back loop double crochet of the round goes into that slip stitch from the end of the previous round, okay, which we conveniently put marker in. I'm actually going to take that out. Now, you don't need it so much when you're working in 2 colours because it's reasonably obvious that that is the next stitch, okay, or the last stitch. So I'm going to do back loop double crochet in there. So that's round 2 complete, apart from just joining it up at the end. So to join it up, we are just going to work a slip stitch into our first double crochet. So remember, this first loop you've got here is our turning chain, so you ignore that, and it'll always be, you'll be slip stitching into the stitch right next to your marked corner chain there. Okay, under both loops, and don't pull it too tight. Okay, I'm not going to mark that because I want you to be able to see the stitches a little bit easier. Okay, so that's round 2 done. So now we drop our round, our colour 2. I'm going to pick up colour 1 again. Now a little tip, what you can do, let me just show you the back of another one that I did earlier. So this is another square, a completed one that I did earlier, and if I turn it over, you can see this is where we were, or like start and end of our square, and you've got these sort of yarn floats up here, just where we've like brought the yarn up. Now if you want to make them less obvious, you can do, and I'm now going to show you how. This was just literally picking it up and just working that first stitch with it. But if you, so we pick it up, okay, do our, just pick up that yarn through there, pull that down, our first turning chain there. So what we're now going to do, when we now work in to our corner chain here, okay, what we're just going to do is just pick up the colour 2 that we were using, we're not anymore, and put that over the top, okay, like so, and we're just going to work over that just for that very first stitch. Okay, so there's our first double crochet in the corner, and we've worked over the bit that we're holding of the other yarn. I'm going to drop that, leave it at the back, 1 chain and another double crochet in that first corner. Okay, so I will just move this marker up again into this corner chain. So I'll show you the back on this later, and you'll be able to see how much neater it looks done like that. Okay, so that's our first corner done on round 3. So we've now got 1 back loop double crochet, so it's all just along the sides, it's going to be just standard overlay mosaic crochet. Okay, so 1 back loop double crochet, and then we've got to work our front loop treble. So again, we're just working, coming down straight into that loop there. Can you see? One right below where we would have been working, and we are going to do our treble into that front loop there. Okay, then as always, we make sure we miss this stitch behind that treble we've just done, and then we've got one back loop double crochet. So that's our repeat, and we start our repeat again with double crochet, chain, double crochet in that corner chain, then one back loop double crochet, and then we're going to do our front loop treble again. Okay, so into there. All right, so what you'll see, you'll just have that one spare loop, hopefully you can see there, between the two, and that is our corner chain from the first round. Okay, so again, miss the stitch behind, one double crochet, and then double crochet, chain, double crochet, all obviously, as I said, into the back loop. So all of our double crochets, whether they're in the chains or stitches, are always going to be in the back loop. Okay, double crochet, and do it that way. It might be easier to pick up in that loop just using the hook. Treble. So I'll just complete this round. Double crochet, chain, double crochet in the next stitch, and then front loop treble, and then we end our round in this slip stitch here. Okay, so you may have marked that, I didn't bother there. So now to complete it, we just got to, as I said before, we're just going to work a slip stitch underneath both of those loops there. Okay, so that is your round 3 done. So round 4, again, we're going to drop our C1, pick up our C2, just by pulling that loop through there, pull that one down, turning chain. Okay, and then I'm just going to work over that end again, just in that very first stitch. So, and then we let go of that, one chain, and then hopefully that marker is not in your way, it's in mine. Okay, so there's our first corner done. Take that marker out and move it up. Okay, so for round 4, we've now got just a nice simple run of 5 back loop double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will now take us to our next corner chain. So double crochet, chain, double crochet in there, and then 5 back loop double crochets again. So you can carry on and complete round 4 like that, and then come back to me and we will do round 5 together. Okay, before we now get started on round 5, if you have been marking your corner chains, rather than moving them up when we now do round 5, you might find it useful to keep them where they are on round 4. I mean, you can also add another one on round 5 if you want, if you're finding that useful. If you leave these in place on round 4, because when we now do round 6, in a minute, we're going to actually be working into these loops. Okay, so it could be useful for you to just see where your corner chains are. Okay, so round 5, I've got started by pulling up my loop and doing my initial turning chain there. So we've now got, as always, we're going to work into this marked chain with 1 double crochet, 1 chain, 1 double crochet, and what I'm going to do is just pop this other marker into that chain. Okay, and as I said, we'll just leave the other one. Oh, get in there, it's a little loose bit there we go. Okay, so now along round 5 we've got 2 back loop double crochets, 1, 2, then 3 front loop trebles. So the second of those should be worked into that treble that we did 2 rows ago. Okay, so we've got 3 there, then 2 back loop double crochets, and that's going to take us up to our corner where we've got double crochet, chain, double crochet. Okay, so that's going to repeat that round now. So 2 back loop double crochets, 3 front loop trebles, 2 back loop doubles, and that takes us up to the corner again. So repeat that all the way around, and then we'll come back and we will do round 6 together. Okay, so up until now we've been a nice, simple, straightforward, plain corners where we're just working our back loop double crochets around there. On round 6, we are going to now be starting right after our little corner double crochet, chain, double crochet. We're now going to be adding a front loop treble. So what that is going to do, that is now going to be, this first one here is now going to be worked into that corner chain 2 rows down, which is why I sort of suggested you might want to leave your marker in there so it's easy to see. So this is a different type of corner. This little corner that we're doing here will basically create a sort of square on your piece. So if we look at one that I did earlier, you'll see, can you see there? What we're now going to be doing is this bit here. So that's going to make a sort of square in our corner. Okay, so we're now going to be doing this here, and that is then worked into this corner chain 2 rows down. So front loop treble into that corner chain. So it can be a little bit awkward sometimes because you've already worked 2 stitches into them. So you might find it easier trying to show you there to actually I don't want to take the marker out. There we go, got in there. Okay, so we're going to do a front loop treble there. So we'll complete this corner when we get round again. So I'm going to take that out of there. What I probably should do is just put that back into that corner chain so we are still keeping the track of that for you. Okay, so that is the start of our round 6. Then we've got a little run of 7 back loop double crochets, 2, 3, 6, 7, and then we've got another front loop treble, and that is going to be worked into this corner chain. So you can hopefully see there, if we have a little look, you can see where we worked our 2 stitches into the back loop there, and there is our front loop. So we're going to work front loop treble in there, still obviously skip the stitch behind, double crochet, chain, double crochet in that chain. And then when we've come around the corner, we're now going to work another front loop treble, and that's going to be in that same chain. Okay, so that's our little square worked in our first corner. And then 7 back loop double crochets, and we'll do the corner together again then. 4, 5, 6, 7, and then front loop treble there, double crochet, chain, double crochet in that corner, and another front loop treble. Okay, so carry on around, complete that. I'll just come back just before we finish just to show you what we do on this last corner. Okay, so I've now just got to the end of round 6, and this time we're not actually going to be working into this slip stitch from the end of the previous round. We are going to complete our corner and make sure we do our last front loop treble in that same loop, there we are, that we started the round, first front loop treble of the round in. Okay, so let's complete our final corner with a little square in it there. And then, as always, we are going to be slip stitching in this first front loop treble there, first back loop double crochet, first double crochet there in the corner. Okay, so now we can drop our C2, pick up C1 again, and pull up a loop, turning chain, and in the corner just work over that first one. There we go. One double crochet, chain, one double crochet, and I'm going to leave that marker where it is again, because on round 8 we're going to be working into it again, doing the third type of corner. Okay, so I'm going to leave that where it is, and we will just utilize this other marker to put in there. Okay, so we've now got 3 back loop double crochets, 1, 2, 3, then 5 front loop trebles, 3, 4, 4, 5, then 3 back loop double crochets, and that's going to take us up to the next corner. Okay, so corner is the same as we've been doing all along, double crochet, chain, double crochet, and then we'll start again with our 3 back loop double crochets, and so on. So you carry on and complete round 7, and then we'll come back and do round 8 together. Okay, so I've now completed round 7, and for round 8 we're going to be doing, like I say, a slightly different type of corner. This time, rather than leaving a little sort of square with a contrasting little bit in the middle, we're now actually going to be filling in the corner. So sometimes you might want like a solid corner there. So to do that, we're going to do slightly different in the corners now. So picking up as normal, just picking up my colour 2 as normal, and working 1 chain. Now this time we are not going to be actually working in to our corner chains on this round. We are going to be working into the front loop here 2 rows down. So it's still a front loop treble, but what we're going to do, rather than doing the bits in the corner and down there, but all of our stitches in the corner is going to be worked here in this one 2 rows down. So we're going to start with 1 front loop treble there. Okay, so that is the equivalent of the first double crochet that we would normally have worked in that corner. Okay, then we've got our chain, so that's our normal corner chain, and then we're going to work 2 more front loop trebles into that corner, the front loop corner chain 2 rows down. Okay, so as we do, we're actually going to complete this corner when we get to the end. So we can take that marker out now, and what I'm going to do is just pop it in there into that corner chain. Okay, so that's our first corner done. Then we have got 1 back loop double crochet. So what you need to make sure is you're missing, so there's the corner chain, and that was the other double crochet that was worked into that corner, so we've got to miss all of those, and then our next stitch goes in there. Okay, so you're not working into the double crochet, chain, double crochet that you worked on the previous row at all, around at all. You're leaving them free. So we've got 1 double crochet, 1 front loop treble. Okay, then we've got a run of 7 back loop double crochets there. 2, 3, 6, 7. Okay, so then 1 front loop treble, and 1 back loop double crochet, and we're now up to this. These are the 3 stitches that we worked into that corner on the previous round. Okay, so they're not going to be worked into at all now, because we're now going to work into this front loop of that same corner there. Okay, so into there. We have 2 front loop trebles, 1 chain and another 2. Okay, so we've now still increased the 2 stitches in that corner that we would have done if we'd have worked into the back. Okay, because we've left those 3 behind and we've now got 5 in their place there. Okay, then we start again, double crochet, treble, and 7 back loop double crochets. 6, 7, then front loop treble, double crochet, and corner the same as 2 front loop trebles down there, 1 chain, 2 trebles. So you can carry on and complete that round, and then we'll be almost done with this little square. We'll just have 1 more round to go. Okay, so I've now got right to the end of round 8 again. Remember, we've just now got to finish off our first corner though. Okay, so the idea of this, to keep the corners as neat as possible, is to always end right next to our corner chain. Okay, that's why I didn't do both of the trebles in there to start with. So just got to right back in this first loop there, 1 final treble. Okay, and then we are gonna slip stitch into that first treble we did there. So there we go. So for this little square, we've now actually finished with our C2 colour. So what I'm going to do, chop that off, leaving about 4 or 5 inches, because you're going to need to weave that in when we're finished. But now for the last time, we are picking up our C1 colour. Pull that tight, turning chain, and what I will do is I'm just going to work over this end for the first couple of stitches. You will still need to weave it in, but I'll just do that. That'll hold it in place. So we're back to doing our corners as we have for most of the round. Double crochet, chain, double crochet in there. And if you're actually going to be joining lots of these squares together, which you might, because they're nice little squares, they actually work, I think, quite well for a temperature blanket if you wanted as well, maybe using like the high temperature and the rainfall or something for your 2 different colours. So what there is a good idea to do then is to pop a marker in each corner chain so you can find it easily when you're joining the squares together. Okay, so we've got a nice little run now of 7 back loop double crochets. To get that out of the way, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that should have taken us right into the center of our little triangle there. I'm just going to do 1 front loop treble in there. Okay, so then it looks a bit like a little tree. Okay, it looks more like a tree if you look. Oh, I can hit my camera again. Looks more like a tree if you see one. This one where I actually did my C1 was green. Okay, so then it'll be another 7 back loop double crochets to take us up to our next corner. 4, 5, 6, 7, and then double crochet, chain, double crochet, and then 7 back loop double crochets again, and then we'll just put another little treble in there. Okay, so that is how you do overlay mosaic crochet in the round from the center out. Okay, so you've got, I think, everything you'll need to know here about the 3 different ways you can do the corners as well. Right, so I've now got to the end of round 9. I haven't actually joined with a slip stitch here, because when I get to do the last round of anything done in the round, I like to actually join with an invisible join. Just makes it neater there, so it will be invisible. So just in case you don't know how to do it, I'm just going to run you through that now. Okay, so take my hook out of there. Got my tapestry needle. I'm just going to chop that off again to about 4 to 6 inches, so you've got enough to actually play with. And what we're going to do, we're going to pull that loop through. So we now have one strand of yarn sticking out of the last loops of our last stitch there. Okay, so then we thread that onto our tapestry needle. And what we're now going to do, if we were slip stitching, we would have actually inserted our hook into there. But for an invisible join, we're actually going to replace this loop with another one that we're now going to create. So what we're doing, we're not going into there. We're actually right there next to our corner chain. Okay, so under both of those loops of our corner chain, I'm going to pull that through, and don't pull it too tight, because what we're now got to do is we're going to create a loop the same size as all these other ones here. Okay, so just pull it like so. Then you take your tapestry needle and you insert it straight back into the middle of that stitch again where it came out, and if we then tilt it down through that back loop as well. Okay, pull that down, and again, don't pull it too tight. There we go. It's now the same size as all the others, and that is why it's an invisible join. Okay, can't tell where the join was. It now looks just like all of the other loops. So we now need to just fasten this off, make it nice and secure, weave in the ends. Okay, so I'm going to turn that over, and actually before I do that, hopefully you can see why by working over that first stitch there down here, you can hardly see the float. Where we couldn't work over it because we had our we were doing all of our corner trebles in front of it, you've got a little bit there, but I think that looks neater. I just compare it to that, see the difference. Okay, doesn't matter the back. If you're happy with that, that's absolutely fine. I mean, it's not awful, but that is less obvious. Okay, so what we're now going to do, like I said, we need to just weave this in. So come back, bring your and just work underneath some loops like so. Make sure you don't pull too tight because we don't want to bunch anything up. Okay, done that there. Then we're going to just go back the other way. Okay, and to be on the safe side, maybe go back the other way again. Okay, like so. So just to make that nice secure, and then we'll need to do the same with that one and both of the ones at the front. So this was all from our magic ring. Definitely make sure you weave that one in, because you don't want it all coming unraveled from the center. Okay, so there's not much to weave it into there, but what I generally do, something like so. Make sure you don't go right the way through to the front. So just like that. And then maybe just back that way. Okay. Okay. Chop the end up. So yeah, do weave in all your other ends, and then you're done.